We don't even have a warm-up. All right, it's Retraction. Jamie, what is on your mind? What is it?
Is that it? Cold open?
It's a cold open.
All right, it's cold open,
Should I
folks.
do something else? Should I make it?
That's fine.
Should I make it extra spicy?
The
world is a vampire. You know that song?
I do.
Yeah,
I do know that song.
Is it Smashing Pumpkins?
I think it is.
Okay. What's his name? Chris Corbin? Something like that?
Maybe.
Jeremy Corbyn? Jeremy Corbyn?
No.
Let's see.
Anyway.
All
right. All right. I'm gonna do something in this episode.
All right.
I'm gonna do a little ditty.
Let's make some pizza.
All right. So, as our loyal listeners might know, we sometimes do deep dives into public figures of note so our community doesn't have to. And that brings us to introduce all of you fine folks listening today to Marjorie Taylor Green, also known by her initials MTG. You've probably heard the name, but do you know the person? Some might say Greene is a polarizing figure, arguably a staunch Christian nationalist. In fact, I'm pretty sure she calls herself that. A notable conspiracy theorist, and a prominent voice and member of the right-wing populist MAGA movement within the Republican Party. If you asked Greene to describe herself, her campaign website today says that she's a conservative businesswoman. And please keep that in mind as we journey through her story. But first, let's back up a bit. Marjorie Taylor Green, which was just Marjorie Taylor, was born May 27th, 1974 in Milledgeville, Georgia. For those folks that don't know, which is most of us, that's Georgia's 6th district. Marjorie,
cool.
Yeah. Little tidbit.
Is that on her Wikipedia, by the way? Is that do you know if that's an actual fact, or is this something she's just put on? Like, is this what Wikipedia has pulled, or is that something that is on her website?
It's on a bunch of different websites. But okay. Why do you ask? You think she'd be lying about the district?
I'm just saying. Usually, I mean, I'm just putting it out there. No, not the district. The district, of course. I wouldn't put it past someone in that kind of conspiratorial circles to make up where they were in fact born, so that they can get
to cover
kind of thing.
Well, it's funny that you go there because as we'll cover in a little bit, she's not the Congresswoman for the 6th district, but that's where she was born and lives.
Okay, but did she ever run for the 6th district?
No.
Okay.
She was going to, but then an opportunity arose somewhere else.
Or she was like, no one here knows who I am because I wasn't born here, and they would out me, so I can't. So I'm pulling out because they were like, who are you, Miss Margaret? She's like, I was born in that house over there. That house that's been a fire station for the past 70 years. Does she also go by Merry Thanksgiving?
That did not come across my desk in any of my research. What is that?
I just think I would do that. If my initials were MTG, I think I would call myself Merry Thanksgiving.
Did that just come to you?
It did come to me when you were throwing out the MTG. So I was just like, you know what? That's a moniker I go by.
Okay. That's fine. Okay. All right. So anyway, folks, let's get back. So Marjorie grew up well off relative to the area because her dad ran a successful construction business. And that plays into what we're talking about because Greene claims to be a businesswoman because of her lifelong involvement working for her family's construction business, Taylor Commercial. And that's a big part of her local persona, right? That's right. Where she got a lot of her street cred from. I know business, I can take care of us. We don't need the government. So let's go with that.
Nepotism is alive and well in me. I'm a nepotistic person. This is making me great. Right? That's like the Trump kids do it too, right? Everyone's like, look at me, I was born into this. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of jazz hands.
I was gonna say with jazz hands and everything. Yeah,
I got everything. It's like anyway.
So Marjorie's growing up in the 6th district. Her family's well off. Daddy's got a construction company. She claims to work there, and now she's a businesswoman. In 1995, straight out of college, Marjorie marries Perry Greene, who worked at her father's business. The couple go on to have 3 kids. Now, the couple later on bought a majority stake in her father's company in 2002. And according to Marge, it has accelerated in growth and now manages $250 million in construction projects. Ironically, as a congresswoman, Greene often railed against government spending, or she rails against government spending, but her construction business has a history of profiting off taxpayer subsidized affordable housing. In fact, Taylor Commercial's own marketing has for years claimed to be experts in low-income housing tax credits, claiming, and I quote, Taylor Commercial Inc. has been at the forefront of affordable housing projects since founder Robert Taylor began what was then Taylor Construction, unquote.
Ooh.
Isn't that like crazy? Like the audacity? The audacity. I mean, come on.
The audacity of hope for MTG.
She's a Republican and she's profiting off of this. That's what her entire business is, her dad's business is built on. And then she gets into Congress and wants to rip it away from everyone. Or at least that's what she's touting to get the...
Probably other things. Do you think she's voting actively to rip away any kind of government subsidy to construction, or what is it?
Maybe not that specific one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That specific one, she's probably quite happy to keep intact.
Unless her portfolio has grown since then, and now it's a smaller part of her pie.
Even if it is a smaller portion of her pie, I'm sure she's not going to turn away some fresh green, especially when it's being given to her by her own constituents. I mean, isn't that funny when your constituents in a roundabout way are actually not only helping to pay for your salary, but also helping to keep the business that made you so wealthy and famous afloat? Some people call that a double dip. I would call it probably a quadruple dip, because there's probably other things that her constituents are doing that are benefiting her as well. But, that's the plight of being an American. It's the plight of being an American pleb. Us normal folk out here just trying to make it day to day, go to a job, 9 to 5, come home, don't have much in terms of investments in the country. We don't own massive real estate, corporations, moguls, whatever. We're just average everyday folk. Our tax money goes to support quite a few people, and some of those people are the people that not only do we support in terms of our representation, but because they have so many arms and legs in various financial capitalistic ventures within the nation. Yeah, our money might go to help subsidize that as well, especially when there are clear and present subsidies for their behemoth of wealth. It's a beautiful relationship, I feel. But anyway, continue.
So, about a decade later, it's 2011. I don't know what I was doing in 2011, but imagine yourself in 2011. Greene stepped down as the company's CFO, a position she claims to have held for 3 years. She's still the majority owner. She then got into CrossFit and began training. The whole CrossFit craze, I guess that was 2011. A year later, in 2012, she was a part-time coach at a CrossFit gym where she had an affair with 2 men, and her husband filed for divorce. However, good news is they eventually decided to stay together and work on their marriage, so yay for them. A year...
too expensive with regard to the company. Yeah.
Well, considering
they sat down and like really hashed it out and said,
well, her husband owned the majority stake with her, and he was the CEO. So
I mean, they're basically like, do we get divorced and have financial ruin, or can I just sleep with other people while you sit at home quietly, doing your little hobby? He probably does model trains or something. And by the way, no offense to anyone doing model trains out there. I'm just saying, he's probably a very nice guy who just...
Model trains are fine.
I love trains.
I've been to several exhibits with model trains, and I love all the detail. They create these mini worlds. It's amazing.
I used to model train when I was...
I don't want to get too bogged down in their personal lives. It's more of when they say things about other people's personal lives, and it becomes a hypocrisy. That's why I kind of bring it up, because there is that whole family values type thing, and that they try and boost up, and they define that by people being together and procreating and all this kind of stuff.
Did you say it was 2 separate men at her CrossFit?
Yes,
but at the same time?
I don't know, but it's within a year, so yeah.
I mean, to her credit, was her husband into CrossFit?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm just saying. So she was basically little tasty sweet meat, be like one of those lick the index finger and be like, she's like these hot hot, attractive, like super built guys all around her, and she's like, I can't help myself. She's like the Christian woman inside just had to,
She was tempted
had
by
to
the
turn
devil.
over a couple of money tables. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
That analogy, the money tables are men, like sweaty men.
Okay,
with muscles.
that's great.
Go on.
That's great. I'll put that on the cover thumbnail.
I hope you do.
Anyway,
Oh my God.
bringing it back to the sacred timeline. You watch Loki?
Yeah, no.
No.
Yeah, I know, but I know what it's about, and
Okay.
I know the timelines.
That's fine. All right, so bringing it back. A year after this nonsense, and that's 2013, Greene founded co-founded, I should say, a CrossFit gym. So she decided to open up her own. Now, it's worth noting, since Greene touts her business acumen, that in a 2015 interview, Greene said that when she co-founded the gym, she knew little about how to run a business. And I found that interview interesting.
That's
because
so weird.
it is a direct
She was a
contradiction.
CFO.
But it is a direct contradiction to the positioning on her website today that says she's a businesswoman, and they lead with her running her family business as the CFO and holding that title for 3 years. And it's also worth noting that an Atlanta Journal-Constitution investigation determined that Greene had no significant presence at the company, as she didn't appear on any of the company's websites, nothing under the executives, and wasn't mentioned in any corporate filings. So I'm just like, BS, like complete BS. She lied on her resume is what I'm getting at.
This actually sounds a little, did you watch, what's the HBO show? Secession. Did you watch Secession?
I didn't. I know I'm supposed to. I didn't.
Never mind. Well, in that case, I by the way, listeners, if you have watched Secession, I'm leaning towards the sister. Marjorie Taylor Green feels like she's a little bit of the sister. A little, very bright, but could never quite get into the company. Could never get the accolades that she felt like she deserved. But that is
I'm not sure Marjorie is bright, but
well,
I hear you.
Okay, I hear you. Yeah, well, I mean, it is crazy. By the way,
it is misdirected intellect. I'll tell you that.
That is the chief financial officer, and to be the chief financial officer for a company for 3 years and then say, I don't really understand how business is done, is a wild. It's a wild thing.
It's almost like it was a no-show job title that her daddy gave her, or that she gave herself at this point. And she didn't do anything.
It would kind of be like talking to a priest like 3 years after having a congregation, and they're just being like, yeah, I just haven't gotten around to reading the Bible yet. I just haven't gotten around to it. One of these days.
She's got things to do. She's got a couple balls in the air. All right.
I'd just say.
All right. So let's get back. Okay. And it's 2017 where Greene leaves the CrossFit business 5 years after co-founding it. Coincidentally, in 2017 was when Greene first expressed her belief in QAnon, which was just weeks after QAnon first posted on 4chan. And this is when Greene wrote 59 QAnon articles for the now defunct far-right conspiracy theory website, American Truth Seekers. The following year, in 2018, Greene wrote 27 articles for Law Enforcement Today, a pro-police fake news website. Also in 2018, Greene was the moderator for the Family American Project's Facebook group page, where posts included death threats to Democrats, bigotry directed at the Obamas, and various conspiracy theories like Jewish space lasers were responsible for the California wildfires, and the government has been infiltrated by communists, a future callback to her childhood days with Larry that we'll get into soon, I'll remind you.
Okay, I respect that. You know, is this the kind of stuff they talk about at a CrossFit gym? Do you think?
I don't think so. No, because she left CrossFit. In fact, she quit. She quit and went to go write these articles for this stuff. So somewhere along the line, she got radicalized. I don't know. Maybe there was a CrossFit infiltration.
I just was wondering. I was like, is CrossFit? I mean, I'm not trying to insult anyone who's into CrossFit. I tried to get into CrossFit. It just wasn't for me. But I was like, is this what I was going to be in for?
Maybe.
Like when you start really getting into it, it's like, is the workout of the day that they call it the WOD? Is that really just a funneling of conspiratorial channeling? Is that what you're doing? Really? Is that your workout of the day? I mean, I'm just asking.
I think you might be right. Maybe there's an after hours meetup.
But hey, look, let's not. Yeah, well, that's just pure speculation. I'm sure it's fine, and CrossFitters are not, any more susceptible to conspiracy than, I don't know, local law enforcement or anyone else that you may have found at January 6th, for instance.
That's fair. All right. So then let's bring it back.
Yeah.
2019, the Senate holds hearings on gun control. We may all remember this, especially as I start talking. Greene basically is radicalized at this point, and she travels to D.C. to have her say as a private gun owner. She is not a congresswoman at this point. Please remember that. So she goes to the Congress in D.C. to have her say as a private gun owner. But unsurprisingly, she was routinely ignored by everyone on Capitol Hill. However, she noticed that lawmakers were meeting with David Hogg, who, for those of you who don't know, is a survivor of the Parkland school shooting that took place 1 year earlier. So what did Greene do? She followed
antagonize him.
She followed a school shooting survivor around as he walked down the street, ridiculing and harassing him, and she videoed it. Just to get attention. But I never knew.
They're all paid actors, right? I mean, that's
I never knew the motive behind it. And that makes sense. Like the context of she went with an agenda down to these hearings. No one paid attention to her. She saw someone they were paying attention to because he survived a tragedy a year earlier.
Horrible.
And she went right after him to get FaceTime. And
I mean, there's nothing like that. Nothing like attacking someone who would just like to see guns in America better regulated because a lot of their friends were murdered in a mass shooting. But what makes the most sense is for the conspiratorial nuts to come out and say that this person is in fact that the Parkland thing never happened, and all these children that do not like guns now are paid activists by the Democratic Party, because that makes the most sense. Not that I survived this horrible incident. I've got PTSD, just an incountable number of God knows what kind of mental stresses as a result of, going to school one day as a regular person and then coming out as one of the few people to survive a spray of bullets just shattering through your life. I mean, it actually gets, I get upset about it. I'll try to walk back a little bit, but the fact that is what made her famous makes her even more deplorable. Like that makes her deplorable to me. I just find it so insane, and like the worst part of this country, the fact that these kids, they're children. The fact that there are grown adults out in this country that have hatred towards people who are now, I mean, back then they were like 16, 17 years old, and they have these people that are completely discrediting them on the national media. Yeah, now they're like in their early 20s. It's wild to me that anyone could go, that person speaks for me. Look at her. Look at the way that adult woman is standing up to this kid that is only here because he got lucky enough not to get shot and riddled with bullets. Man, that's the person I want representing me. I love the cut of that woman's gif. She's really speaking truth to power there, because that kid is power. He's power right there. He's really gonna give it to this country. That kid right there. This grown woman, this ex-CrossFitter, she's got it. She's gonna give it to him. I love it.
And we'll color that in a little bit and soon. So I'm glad that you made those comments, because they'll fit in. It is just like tragic. You don't even need kids to have your gut and heart just fall to the floor when you see these school shootings happening. It's
ridiculous.
One of the latest ones with the girl crying on the bus. It was just a photograph, and my God, for any kid,
horrible. It's horrible. I hate that. I mean, the fact that people are sitting around there being like crisis act. I mean, like, this is just, you have to take a step back at some point.
Well, didn't Alex Jones?
Of,
he's like liable now for making all those
for Sandy Hook,
like,
because I mean, Jesus, he went after the kindergartners. I mean, anyone. So, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna. I can't sit here and not say that there is something, that there is an illness in you. If you want to comment on this podcast and saying like you guys are taking like red pill or whatever garbage you want to say, I'm sorry, there is something wrong with you. You need help. You need to look at yourself. If you cannot have sympathy for 5-year-olds being mowed down by a person with an assault rifle, I just don't understand the sickness in this country. It's just too crazy for me. I don't like to engage with it for that reason, because I'm just like, you cannot. What is it? You cannot bring sanity to the cuckoo house. It's yeah, it is what it is.
All right. So in this same year, in 2019, so when she did that during the Senate hearings on gun violence, this is the same year that Greene went back to the U.S. Capitol and live streamed going to AOC's office, yelling through her mail slot in the door. I don't know if you remember that. I actually do. I forgot about it until I read this article, and I was like, oh my God, I remember that. Yelling into AOC's office through the mail slot in her door, just like in Home Alone, that little mail slot. Face the American citizens that you serve and get rid of your diaper, which I don't even know what that means, but she was yelling it. And Greene also called for members of Congress that were sworn in on the Quran to be sworn in on the Bible instead. And she also posted a Facebook pic of herself holding an assault rifle next to a collage of other Congresswomen with the caption, and I quote, "Strong conservative Christians to go on the offensive against these socialists who want to rip our country apart," which is a direct threat to the squad, as they're called. I mean, you're holding an assault rifle next to pictures of these people saying that we have to go on the offensive. Like, how do you take that? Yeah. And that's
Merry Thanksgiving. You are full of tricks. Tell you that right now.
So that's 2019, right? That's 2019.
That's a lot.
After all of that,
does she? Yeah, go on.
No, she's not elected. She's not
elected at this point. That's what's wild.
2019.
That's what you're getting to.
So after all of that, Greene runs for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives for Georgia's 14th district, while she lived in the 6th. I guess there's no rule in Georgia that says you can't do that. You have to live in Georgia, but you don't have to live in the district that you're running in. And she won. And she won after all of that. And after winning the congressional seat in 2021 is when she moved to the 14th district. So that's where she lives today. And like you, Antoine, I'm writing this stuff down to talk on the pod. And I am like asking myself, who the heck votes for Marjorie Taylor Green? And I was like, I have to look this up. I have to look up who is in this 14th district. So
okay, I'm interested. This is something that I've actually started to do as well. I've started to, because there's a lot of stuff when it comes to looking up politics, right? And you feel very powerless, and even I've combated with you about why are we even covering Merry Thanksgiving? Like what is it about her that we have any power to control, because she's representing like 0.01% of this country's people, and those 0.01% just are really happy with chiding children who've survived mass shootings, and threatening people with different ideologies, whether it be political ideology or religious differences. They're like, we're happy to persecute those people. This is just, we're just happy to do it. We're happy to do it. There's a lot of people in history that are not usually favorable who fall on that line, but they're like, we're different. We're not Nazis. We're not out here trying to, but we kind of are out here threatening to kill people because they don't believe like we do, or at least our representative is doing that. But we're different because I guess we don't have camps and we're not in charge fully yet. But when we're there, I guess we'll be the Nazis, but we won't be the Nazis, right? Because we're Americans, and you can't be a Nazi if you're American because Nazis are Germans. I'm just trying to figure out how you rationalize your support at that point for someone who's doing these kinds of things. Must be the rabbit hole you have to go down to say, well, I'm a Christian, so I can't be a Nazi.
I
And
don't
I'm
think they
not
reflect.
German.
I think that they
Oh,
are
you don't think they
conditioned. I
reflect?
think they're
Okay.
conditioned, and they just go, and
Right. Right.
they're
So
just doing
they
it.
follow orders,
They're just doing it.
which is really interesting. You just follow the orders.
I think this is the way it is. This is
Right.
what they
Okay.
know, and no one's
Cool.
challenging them,
Right.
and they're just kind of doing their thing.
Right. You don't believe like me, so you don't deserve to live. Cool. All right.
I mean, it was something
Like
only 3% of the population traveled 90 minutes to get to work. The majority, it was like a 20-minute commute to work or something. Like, so everyone's super local.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's talk about who the 14th district is.
Okay. I
So
did a lot of
we're gonna take a break from the sacred timeline, and we're gonna move it on over. So we said that Greene was born in 1974, and in the 70s and 80s, the area was represented by Larry McDonald, and that's who I called out earlier, right? And Larry believed the civil rights movement was a communist plot, but I'm willing to say that was then. Yes, it had influence over her, but that was then. Who are these folks now? Let's not just say that these people are all cuckoo now. Well,
now wait. I mean, what Larry? This is 1974. You're saying
70s and 80s. This is the dude that was representing them.
Oh, okay. So he did. So he okay. So
he was around.
To a point. All right.
Yeah, he was around.
I was trying to give her. I was either trying to give her some credibility, like a way out, or
I'm thinking her family, blah blah blah. She grew up during this, and she emerged from it. And I don't know how much things change in the 14th district of Georgia.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's like 1980 comes around. She's 6 years old. I don't want to. I wouldn't want someone to paint me at 6.
I don't know, man. People treat Reagan like a god. So
yeah, I get that. Yeah, I'm just saying, but it's like she's not in charge of this guy necessarily. So I'm
and by itself, no. But let me finish because itself, sure, by itself, it's nothing. Right. But all together, it starts to paint a picture, and that's what we're doing here. We're finger painting here, Antoine. We're going to see what it turns out to be. All right. So, all right, those were that was in the 70s and 80s. Who are these folks today? Well, 75% of the residents voted for Trump. 6,000 residents recently signed a petition to save a local statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest. Fun fact: he was the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, I thought that name sounded familiar.
Yeah. And Rome, the largest city in the district, has features a statue of Romulus and Remus. And local legend celebrates that it was a gift from Mussolini.
Oh, wow! This is okay.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay. It is very rare when you do I think it's called. I should have looked at it. I always forget it. There's an internet philosophy where if you have an argument with a bunch of people, there's only a matter of time before it devolves into basically Hitler. And I cannot remember the name of the philosophy right now, but that's where it is. Like all roads lead to Hitler, no matter what you say. And I was just guilty of it by talking about Nazism in the way that these people seem to be, conducting themselves in the public sphere. It's just rare that you actually get some semblance of. Usually, it's just hyperbole. It's rare to see some sort of justification actually fall into your lap. What that is wow! Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan revered, and a sacred Italian statue from Mussolini. This is absolutely. This is getting wild.
I'm just finger painting here, Antoine. I'm just finger painting. All right,
you're doing more than that. This might be a Picasso. This man's painting a masterpiece. Figure painting is for children. We're in adult territory now. You're putting these pieces together. Go on, Mona Lisa.
All right, but still, let's get to know these people a little more. Okay, so the 14th district has 725,000 people in it, and 40% of the land is rural. The median age is 38. The median property value is $160,000, which is below the national average, which is $245,000, so significantly lower. 96% of the residents are U.S. citizens, which is above the average for Georgia and the U.S., meaning this particular district has below average diversity.
Yeah. It's almost like there's a sign that says "Welcome to whites only."
We'll get there. Um, Average household income is $58,000, below the national average, which is $75,000. In fact, women make an average of $31,000 a year, and men make $41,000. Out of the 14th district's population that lives in poverty, 13% live below the below the poverty line, which is higher than the national average. And the largest demographic living in poverty are females 25 to 34, followed by females 45 to 54. And by race, it's white, followed by Hispanic and black. And I mentioned that because 78% of the residents are white, as you could have guessed. And then one source even said 85%. 11% are Hispanic, 9% are black. So just for
Does
context.
that one source have like a white hood as their reference, like as the page turn?
No, but what I'm getting at is like,
okay,
this is her. These people are all doing poorly. They're not doing well. No one is being served here, really. No one is, whether you're racist or you're not, like you're following these people and they are doing you wrong. They are not doing you right. Like they are doing you
They're
wrong.
not changing your circumstances.
No, you're not doing well.
Your life,
you are below the national
Everything.
benchmarks. You're below your state benchmarks. Maybe you shouldn't be this way. Maybe you should start to act a little differently because you're choking yourselves.
Well, there are some questions I would have. Like, for instance, we don't really poll on things like this anymore, but I would actually, based on how the below average nature of majority of the metrics that you're citing, like what is the literacy? Is the literacy rate?
Well, like I don't know the literacy rate. I could tell you 15% graduated college.
Jesus, you said, wow,
15% graduated.
How low? How much below the average is that?
I don't know, man, but I actually didn't look that one up, but
I
think that's low. I feel like that's really low.
I feel like it's not many places you could only say 15. I mean, again, we have to think about this. This is 20. When was this? When are these stats you're quoting?
These are the last census. Yes, these are recent.
It's 2020, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is 2020, 21st century that these metrics are coming in. That is very low for only 15% of a population to have actually reached secondary education. That feels very low.
By comparison, New Jersey's 40%.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. On average, I would say it's got to be something closer to the 40 to 50% range.
Yeah,
to be in the teens. That says a lot about this area. That's jaw-droppingly bad.
I've seen like 52%, 60%, 40. Like, so yeah, they're low.
Crazy. Yeah.
Wow. And so the district's economy is manufacturing, which provides 68,000 jobs, mostly made up of like 100 and something or 200 factories that make carpets. They actually consider themselves the carpet capital of the world. So is what they say. Healthcare is number 2 with 37,000 jobs, and retail with another 37,000 jobs. And the highest paying jobs are actually for the utility companies at $65,000 a year. Okay, so that's who the fine folks of the 14th district are.
I do want to clarify that I'm not saying that college is like the only path, and it's like if you didn't get there, you're unsuccessful. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying that the debate about college is definitely changing today. And if we're talking about college right now, there is a different type of debate going on in terms of the validity of what's being taught in terms of college. When you have a whole population, which is ranging from ages that are, what is it? You're quoting like people who are 65 and up, you've got a massive range. I don't know what the average age in this area
38.
is.
Average 38. Age is 38.
Okay, 38. That's fine. I'm just saying in the early 90s and late 80s, there was a big push for college, and especially in the late, early 80s where college was still inexpensive. Getting a college education at that point, it's not burdening you with debt. So just getting, doing it it's like you do it to do it because it's not going to hurt you at the end of the day. Today, we're talking about, going $100,000 in debt for an English degree is a completely different animal. So to have that metric that be so low as an average for the population at a time when college was the thing to promote, it made sense to go to college. That's what we're talking about. So when we're saying 50% of a population at that point, I mean, these are people who did not go to college in the heyday of going to college. That's what's wild about it.
And it's not 10% below national average. I mean, it is low.
It is significantly below, right?
Yeah. So anyway, back to the sacred timeline. So
yeah, gotcha.
Greene regularly pushes Russia propaganda and has been praised by Vladimir Putin. She's a strong Trump supporter and pushed the big lie that led to the January 6th insurrection. Greene also visited jailed insurrectionists, giving them high fives, hugs, and handshakes. And keep in mind, thousands of people were charged, and some with very significant convictions. So these are not innocent people, but she obviously encourages and supports them.
Her link to strongmen, like especially to autocrats, is very disconcerting. Just the history of her town, the history of her district, and her allegiances. Being praised by Putin on its own is one of those things where I would just throw it away. It's like, I'm not gonna let that idiot, besmirch a representative of America, because I mean, Putin is praised like Green Party candidates and other people. Like he does these things in order to sow distrust in the country, because he knows we like to jump on his words that way. The media will. So I'm not just going to take it out, but the whole thing, again, the painting you're putting together, the Mussolini, the Klan, and then it's like, and then you're cozy with Trump, and then I'm not cozy. You're cozy with Putin, and then it's like you gravitate towards strongmen, people who will basically take power and never give it back. This is starting to get getting a little uncomfortable. It's getting, I hope there aren't more people like her currently in the United States Congress, because a Congress populated with these kinds of people, that's like a democracy. That's a time where you're like, okay, democracy, like, it's not just what do you call it? It's not just a flight of fancy or being overly dramatic, or you're like, this is the end of the democracy. If there are people who literally feel more allegiant to dictators than they do a republic, yeah, you got to start questioning what's actually happening here. That's wild.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to that. So she's a newly elected Congresswoman, and days after Biden's inauguration in January 2021, just after, I cannot emphasize this enough, just after she gets in herself, Greene filed for articles of impeachment against Biden, alleging abuse of powers. Again, days after his inauguration. How disingenuous could you be? Now, around this time, Mitch McConnell called her a cancer on the Republican Party, and a few weeks later, the House GOP voted to remove Greene from all committee roles in response to her endorsement of political violence. In 2021 and 2022,
better times. Those are we won't look back on that as the civilized.
How quaint, how charming.
Yeah, when we were civilized.
Yeah, when Boner was the problem, or Boehner. I'm sorry, my apologies. So in 2021 and 2022, during the pandemic, Greene was fined at least 18 times, totaling at least $93,000 for not wearing a mask on the House floor. Also in 2022, Greene's husband, Perry, filed for divorce, stating that the marriage had been irretrievably broken, and that was finalized in December. And
so she actually pushed it to the brink. So he basically was like, I will sit with you and pretend while I do my electronic trains in the basement. I will pretend like we are married while you go off and do whatever you want while you frat CrossFitters. I'm okay with that, because
she's on the outs because she's been booted from all the committees. Maybe he was my time.
Like, right now, he's probably like, you're hurting my pocket. It's like when you were basically ineffectual, when the money was good, I was going to keep this, but right now you're probably hurting my pocket because of the association with you, and it's time to cut ties. That's crazy. That's funny.
Yeah, that's where we are. So now it is January of this year, 2023. And after helping Kevin McCarthy become House Speaker, she was rewarded by Kevin by putting her back on a few powerful committees. And Greene is now on the Oversight Committee that's investigating the Biden family, and the Homeland Security Committee, where she's trying to impeach Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, who you might know from recent news events. And I will add that several Republicans voted alongside Democrats to kill Greene's motion and prevented Mayorkas from being the first cabinet secretary in 147 years to be impeached. So she failed on that one. Although 6 months after,
next time,
yeah,
she'll get friends.
There's always a next time. But I'll say that 6 months later, so I think it was like June or July, she was put after she was put on her committees, Greene was expelled from the conservative House Freedom Caucus, which many of you might know from our episode where we profiled Jim Jordan that he helped co-found. And she was expelled because she insulted fellow caucus member and Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. So during Greene's tenure,
it's not so bad that as bad as we may think things are, there are still, but the majority, despite what they're saying in their rhetoric, are still like, yeah, we're just not Nazis. We're just we're just not there. We still find value in the democracy, in the republic. The republic stands, and we're profiting from it, and we just can't get ourselves to overthrow it for an emperor. It's just not really palatable at this stage. They're like, you're just a little too far out from where we currently are. Okay. It's heartening. It's fair. A little heartening.
That's fair. Well, maybe when we hear Marjorie Taylor Greene's voting record, maybe that'll push us over the edge. Okay. So since she's been Congresswoman, she's introduced bills including impeaching Mayorkas, which we just covered, censuring the Squad, declaring a state of war on Mexican cartels, which was, arguably on Mexico, mandating.
She wasn't alone on that, though. There's a lot of people who think that's.
I think it was her bill, though.
Oh, okay, gotcha. She got a co-sponsor?
Maybe grouped together. She's mandating voter IDs, prohibiting gender-affirming care, and prohibiting mask mandates on public transit and in school settings. So really, the most idiotic, divisive waste of time that I can really think of, other than maybe some of Jim Jordan's stuff. But I guess that's a reflection of what the 14th district wants.
Yeah, they basically want a reality show because they're like, our lives are crap. There's not much we're going to get out of this, so we might as well just watch the world burn. It's like misery loves company. Maybe it's one of those kinds of situations.
So I'm almost at the end here, but I cannot let this go, and we really just have to highlight it. So we've covered a lot of Greene's personal history, her business experience or lack thereof, her route to politics that she took and what she's done in there so far. But I do want to just take a moment very quickly to dive into Greene's conspiracy theories. And that's kind of what I'll close with, because this person has promoted some really horrific, heinous stuff. So it's anti-Semitic, it's white supremacy, it's far-right conspiracy theories, and I'm just going to kind of read them very quickly. But just so you understand who this person is, like the stuff that she says, because a lot of this other stuff is kind of like group mentality. These are things that she put out and cannot blame on anyone else. So here's some of the stuff that she puts out. White replacement theory. Jewish space lasers starting wildfires. She said the U.S. is led by a cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles. She linked Hillary Clinton to human sacrifices. She spouted various QAnon drivel like Pizzagate, mass shootings or government false flag operations, and a host of 9/11 conspiracies. She equated COVID-19 measures to the persecution of Jews during the Holocaust, even though Greene received over $180,000 in PPP loans, which was a Trump COVID relief program. Interesting side note, given that she's taken government money, Greene has also donated between $450,000 to $1 million from her company to her political campaign. So how upset could she really be about government spending? So she's equating the COVID measures to the Holocaust while taking government relief money, putting it into her business, which she then kicks back into her campaign.
That's what they call the political circle of life.
Yeah. So last thing.
Yeah.
Recap. Everything that we just went over, because it was a lot. I want to recap. Marjorie Taylor Green is a far-right Christian nationalist that grew up thinking civil rights was a communist plot. She represents a district that fought to keep a statue of the first Grand Wizard of the KKK, Mind you, that district is also financially, economically, and academically suffering across several key metrics under Greene's leadership. She lies about her business experience. She's a hypocrite and profited off of government handouts. She tried to overthrow the government. The bills she supported are between idiotic and oppressive. I can't really land on one. Her own party has expelled her multiple times. She harasses colleagues and school shooting survivors, and she spouts the most vile, radical, and conspiracy theories that QAnon and white supremacists have come up with. That is Marjorie Taylor Green, a member of the U.S. House of Representatives.
That's a lovely wrap up. Jamie, please tell the listeners there has to be some redeeming quality to her being a human being.
I am sure that she has a place in society. It's just not in leadership. I got nothing. Like you said, some of these things by themselves are heinous. So I can't even say it's like it's not just any one thing, because some of the one things are definitely disqualifiers. But some of the other things you could explain away. But when you put them all together, it's troubling. She's troubled. She's putting out troubling vibes. It's troubling. It's troubling that she is that she is going on without seeking help. Yeah. And it's troubling that she's in a position that has so much authority and power over all of us.
Well, it's kind of hard. It's kind of isn't it a difficult situation to say, well, she should seek help, because I mean, she is being elected by that how many people?
And they should seek help. Like
thousands of people. I mean, thousands of people find nothing untoward about her behavior and her beliefs. Thousands of people say this speaks to what we also believe.
Yeah, but does this but all these people, all these folks are suffering. They're all undereducated. Yeah. I'm sure they're not seeking mental health support for themselves. I mean, it's not like
that funding.
It's not like our society is known for its mental health support. So, I'm not saying that anyone who supports her has mental health issues, because I'm just not a doctor and I'm not going there. Yeah. But is it right to say that she doesn't need to seek help because she's being elected? No, I don't think that that's the equation. I don't think that that's kind of what I would infer from all of this. I think that there is probably a few factors at play: conditioning, mob mentality, just plain old ignorance, and impulse. And no one's challenged. It seems to be an isolated rural community who just gets to keep on going, doing the things they've always done. And they've had a storied history. Decades long, generations long history of having
hate in their heart.
Yeah, interesting thoughts. I don't know.
Basically, the silver lining, I'm going to say it again because I said it earlier, is that
we have term limits? Oh no, we don't.
We don't.
Yeah,
but it doesn't seem like people are necessarily picking up what she's putting down, and she seems to be slightly isolated, even from the maniacal nature of her party at present.
For now.
I mean, look, is it infectious? Being around that kind of mentality, is that infectious? Is that empowering, especially if it starts to serve your own particular interest? Yeah, it's dangerous. So that's why she's dangerous, because she has a seat at the table. She could speak up, and she could infect. And there are people who might, whether they're true believers, is like, these kinds of fascist movements would call them, whether they're true believers or just people who are going to be complicit or just collaborate. It's still dangerous. So she's still dangerous to be around. There's no doubt about that. But it is the silver lining is that at present it seems like she is slightly mitigated, and I think that's all we could take away from it, because again, this is a democracy.
She's mitigated because she's part of MAGA and they're not the majority. Like,
I'm just saying,
two very powerful committees who are trying to currently impeach two officials. Like, how is she mitigated?
Keeps getting removed from these things, and she keeps getting put on the fringes of the party. I mean,
that speaks to no one liking. That speaks to no one liking her, and people taking any opportunity they can to get rid of her. But she is not going away. She's
not. Yeah.
She just keeps coming back.
Yeah.
And she's, I don't know. This goes so far beyond just like a difference of opinion. Like, it's like the stuff she's spewing is just like vile. I can't really articulate it any other way. And like you said, it's infectious. It's so lazy. It's so much easier to hate. You don't like something, just hate it. And if you have the power, get rid of it. That's lazy and easy and horrific, but like that doesn't take much intellectual capacity to think through.
The takeaway for the listener, okay, because this is the takeaway I'm going to take away, because again, I always have this issue with, all right, so we're railing on this woman that we find reprehensible, and we don't agree with anything that she has to say. But what does that mean for the rest of America? Like, we have no power whether to remove her. We have no power to talk to her constituents and say, please don't vote for her. That's just not going to happen.
Can we funnel funds to her district to bolster K through 12?
We can, but the damage will have been done, because that's going to take a generation. So there's not much we can do with that. But what we can do is, if you're aware of the danger, you're aware that there are people with fascist beliefs, and there are people who would actually, undercut the tenets of the democracy that you hold dear. It helps us elect people who are more resistant to that. Because the thing, if you're aware of it, then you're not going to maybe elect someone that might lean slightly to some sort of conspiratorial tenets. Right?
So one of the campaign promises has to be, I will vote no on fascism. Like, yes, they have to say it. It's not a thing that you can just say, oh, isn't that implied? Of course I would. Right. No, you need to put it in writing. That needs to be a hard and fast promise.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, even if you're voting for a Republican, you just need to pick a Republican that is not going to fall in line with someone like this, because you do not agree with this. I'm talking to the people who would not vote for her. I'm talking to you guys out there. You need to look at your candidates and make sure that you're voting in people who just do not go along with that gravy train. Because if you give her more support, if you feed her fire, you're going to burn down this forest. And that's really what we're looking at here. I'm just trying to say, what is it that other people really can do? And in your power, all you could do is vote for people that are going to be resistant to that kind of cancer. That's all we can do.
It's a great point. If you're trying to pick between your crowded Republican field, and my hearts go out to you because none of them look good. But if you happen to find yourself in that situation, try to go with the least fascist one. Try to go with the never Trumper. Try to go with the person who doesn't identify as MAGA. Just try and be a decent human being.
The Chris Christie of the bunch, it's not really palatable. He's not attractive to, he's not the most endearing candidate.
He'll shut your state down out of spite and sit on the beach after he closed it to the general public. He'll do all that. He likes
local corruption. He might block a bridge or two.
He's a street level villain.
Yeah, he's a street level villain. Exactly. It's like the.
He's not a Thanos. He's a kingpin. He's a kingpin. He's not a Thanos.
That's exactly it. You don't get rid of your kingpin because you don't know who's going to fill that vacuum. Kingpin has a place in our world. That's what we want. You want kingpins, no Thanoses.
That's great. All right. So
say no to Thanos.
All right.
Yeah, it was good. I like it. I mean, that's a very succinct message. It's a succinct episode. I think that's where we should leave this one. Until next time, dear listener, this has been Retraction. Jamie, where can they find us?
Folks, we got new clips out every week. Fridays are the full episodes. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitter, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
With that, Merry Thanksgiving! Retraction out.